In today's F123 video, I'm going to be driving around Spa, but every lap I complete, my F1 car is gonna get newer. So we start off with the McLaren MP44, which was one of the most successful F1 cars of all time. Let's try and get through turn 1 without locking up. There you go, look at that. Come on. With its driver pairing of Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, as we go through roads. Oh shit! Using its Honda engine, the MP44 had the highest win rate throughout a single Formula 1 season until the RB19 came along last year. They won every single race throughout the entire season except one, which was won by Gerhard Berger in the Ferrari at Italy. Alright, let's go through Pouon. Oh, that is lovely. Right on the limit. I love that a lot. And the MP44 still holds the record for the most... And the MP44 still holds the record for the highest percentage of laps led in a single season with a whopping 97.3%. Let's see, can we go flat out through here? Oh, you bet we can. That is lovely. Alright, here we come around the final corner. It's been an awful lap, but what a car this is. Get the exit nice, and let's see what car's next. Ooh, so now we are in the Ferrari F190, which is also known as the Ferrari 641. This car was driven by the previous year's champion, Alain Prost, alongside Nigel Mansell. And they managed to win 6 Grand Prix during the 1990 season. But what's even more interesting is that this car was actually the first F1 car to have a fully developed and working traction control system. Paired with a highly developed semi-automatic gearbox, this was actually one of the most highly technical F1 cars of the time. And let's not forget that traction control was later developed into a Williams, and it was incredibly successful. Once again, I'm going to try and go flat out on the grass as well, just like Max Verstappen in 2015 on Felipe Nasser. I don't get how the anti-lock brakes work in this game. Like, you brake in a straight line and you still lock up. But anyway, love this car. Well, let's see what's next. Alright, so now we are in the Williams FW14B. And as you can hear, this is where we started to get those extremely loud V12s and V10s. And the sound is just perfect. It's unreal. Do you know what I mean? It's brilliant. Easy flat through you, Rouge, because I feel like it. And listen to that engine. Now, with this car, now it is obviously called the the FW14B, because this actually had a predecessor in 1991, which was just the FW14. And this car was very quick and had a very nice transmission, but it kept braking. And the reliability was so stinky that they ended up only winning 7 Grand Prix and losing the constructors and drivers to Ayrton Senna and McLaren. However, the following year in 1992, Williams spent a bit more time developing their car, and let's just say it annihilated the rest of the field. The first 3 or 4 races of the season were 1-2s, and throughout the first couple laps of every Grand Prix, the Williams would streak ahead by about 2 seconds per lap. But probably the most iconic thing about this car was at the British Grand Prix, where Nigel Mansell put it on pole by 2 seconds over his teammate Riccardo Patrese. This car was also obviously the only car to bring Nigel Mansell a world championship, and what a car it is, and what a sound this thing makes. But unfortunately, it's all over and we have to move on. Alright, so now we actually jump 6 years forward into the McLaren MP413. Now, this was the car used in 1998 and was the first McLaren car designed all by Adrian Newey. The driver pairing was DT, you had Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard, and this car managed to pick up 9 victories throughout the season, giving Mika Häkkinen his first of 2 Drivers' World Championships, and the constructors for David Coulthard as the rear's getting very loose into the first sector. Right, let's get round Pouon. I've also realised that, of course, these cars are absolutely nothing like they were to drive in real life. I've personally never driven a 1998 McLaren F1 car, but this is so difficult just to get round a lap without locking up the tyres or spinning under traction. Like, it is insanely difficult. We can now hear that engine really give it some. What kind of speeds can we get up to? Is that it? 298. Really? I thought it could go a bit faster than that. But anyway, this has been, big lockup, the MP413. I wonder what car we're going to be in next. Big traction. And now we are in the Renault R26. This was the 2006 car, I believe. So, meanwhile, I was being born, Fernando Alonso spinning about in this thing, winning his second world championship. Now, what's easily the most iconic thing about this car was the use of its mass damper. This was like a spring device they put in the car, and it basically made the car stable over curbs. You see, like, I go over the curbs here and round here. For the drivers, that would have felt smoother than the actual tarmac. This incredibly helped the aerodynamic efficiency around, you know, especially high-speed tracks that had a lot of curbs, and basically just made this car a lot faster, like stupidly faster. Fernando Alonso picked up 7 race wins in this car, whilst his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella picked up just the 1. But it was still enough to give Fernando Alonso the Drivers' Championship and Renault its second Constructors. Oh mate, this engine is just perfect, isn't it? Oh, it's lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. But unfortunately, it's all over. Oh wow, I need to stop locking up at that corner. It's not good for this car's engine and tyres. Anyway, next car please. Okay, this is a bit more like it. We are now in... massive lockup. Holy shit. We are now in the McLaren MP423, which is of course driven by Lewis Hamilton and Heikki Kovalainen. Lewis Hamilton in this car produced what was one of the most iconic moments in F1 history with, of course, is that Glock going slowly, which of course delivered Hamilton his first World Drivers' Championship. And I just think it's shocking how it went to the last race, because Felipe Massa was awful that season. Like, he had a championship winning car, and he just kept crashing all the time. So how Hamilton didn't wrap it up before, I'm not too sure how. I'm gonna have to go and watch the entire 2008 season to find out why. And it was of course after this that McLaren had, well, it was sort of the beginning of their big fall-off, which is still active today. After this season, they would win maybe 1 or 2 races every single year. And then it got to what, 2014, 2013, when Jenson Button was driving for them, and then Fernando Alonso came back, and the car was just always stinky, all the way until like 2020, when they finally got a podium. And then of course 2021, they got their first win in a while with Daniel Ricciardo. And now, into the 2024 season, they're looking like one of the favourites to challenge Red Bull. Well, MP423, it's been nice knowing ya, but adios. Speaking of Jenson Button, here's his championship-winning car, the Brawn GP BGP 001. Now, going into the 2009 season, there was a massive technical regulation change that made the cars a lot thinner and also decreased the downforce of the cars by quite a decent amount. And going into the season, of course, Honda pulled out because of the global financial crisis, and most people thought that the car wasn't going to make it to the grid for the first race. And if they did, they would have been back markers getting lapped. However, because of the double diffuser and Jenson Button, he actually put it on pole position at the Australian Grand Prix, and then proceeded to lead every single lap with his teammate Rubens Barrichello following up behind him. Jenson would then go on to win the first 6 out of 7 races, only losing out to Sebastian Vettel at China. And because Brawn was only run on a very tiny budget, they couldn't actually upgrade the car or develop the car at all. But luckily for Jenson, he built up enough of a championship lead in those first 6 races that by the time they got to Brazil, all he needed was a top 5 finish and the Drivers' Championship was his. And he made life difficult by qualifying P14 in qualifying, I think. But luckily he made some great moves and managed to climb up to P5 to not only get the Drivers' Championship for himself, but the Constructors' Championship for Brawn. And now we've only got 2 cars left, but this is probably my favourite car in F1 history. What a machine. So for the penultimate car in this video, we're going to be driving the Red Bull RB6 used in 2010. Of course, Sebastian Vettel won his first World Championship with this car, taking it all the way to Abu Dhabi with the final race of the season. Vettel won the race, and because Fernando Alonso couldn't get past one of the Renaults, even though Vettel had not led the championship at any point during the season, he ended up winning the whole thing. Then of course you had the moment where Vettel and Webber both crashed into each other in, Turkey? When Vettel went for an overtake, Webber wasn't having it, and rather than being a Red Bull 1-2, it actually turned into a McLaren 1-2. The race before Abu Dhabi in Brazil, because Red Bull secured a 1-2 in that race, that wrapped up the constructors for them in what was their first of many World Championships. And of course, from 2010, Vettel would go on to win 2011, 12 and 13. So this car was sort of the start of just a complete annihilation of Formula 1, and then a turbo hybrid era came in, and then they fell off massively. Although to be fair, unlike McLaren, who went from title winners to midfield, at least Red Bull would still pick up a win pretty much every season. The engine on this game sounds a bit shit, it really does, but this engine in real life was just so good. But anyway, we have one final car. We're going to be jumping 13 years ahead. Let's go. And what other car could it be other than the RB19 from last year? Now, common sense dictates I should go for the 2022 car because that was the start of the regulation change. However, I don't have F1 22 installed, so we're just going to stick with the RB19, which might be the better option because, of course, this car is the best car in F1 history. Most wins, most poles, most laps led, most wins, pretty much every single record you can think of that's to do with winning or leading, Max Verstappen or the RB19 has, except for the percentage of laps led in a single season, which I mentioned at the start, which is still owned by the McLaren MP44. I believe this car won 21 out of 22 races, with Verstappen winning 19 and Perez picking up 2. At least he contributed, do you know what I mean? There is actually a fun fact where if you take Sergio Perez's season from last year and duplicate it, so double the wins, double the poles, double the podiums, and more importantly, double the points, Max Verstappen would still win the title. That's how dominant of a season Max Verstappen and the RB19 truly had. And although I hope that this coming season isn't the same with Red Bull winning most of the races, I wouldn't actually mind if that does happen because I am a proper Red Bull fan. But anyway, round the final chicane for the final time in the final car in this video. We've done it! We've driven 9 different cars around Spa. I've given some little fun facts and some details about said cars. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, smash a like, subscribe, all that good bollocks that no one really gives a shit about. And I will see you in the next video of mine. Whee! Oh my, that was a big hit.